You're listening to Literally First Class, the podcast for female founders behind multi-million-dollar brands and businesses. I'm your host, Keri Ford, creative director turned 3-time award-winning coach, real estate investor, mom, and the one-on-one private advisor for multi-7- and 8-figure firms. If you're ready to make your next million, expand your impact, and lead with even more confidence, you're in the right place. Let's take your life and business first class. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about how you can be free from the grip of fear and the control that it has on your life and in your business and in the way you move, make decisions, behave, believe, all the things. And I'm going to share with you a personal story on how this relates. But first, I want to set a little context. And I want to talk about the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, which may feel random, but I promise it's all going to come full circle. So if you didn't watch this documentary on Netflix, it is fascinating. I took notes. I sat and I processed. I might even watch it again, but I sat and I processed the documentary after the fact. I am intrigued and so enthralled and so obsessed with watching people's success stories, or even their fall stories and how they experienced an uprising again. I'm fascinated by people's stories. I love human psychology. I love studying behavior. I always have. It's why I've got into what I do. And it just is so cool when you can apply all of these things toward success. Anyway, there are a few parts that stood out to me in the documentary, but the main one I want to talk about today on this podcast is how when Martha Stewart went to prison, there was a narrator that came on. It might have been her editor of the magazine. I can't remember whose voice it was, but she said, when Martha Stewart went to prison, it actually set her free. Because the thing about that is it was her worst fear come true. Imagine like your absolute worst fear, and then imagine it comes true. And in Martha's case, it came true in public, which is even crazier. But it shattered the image of perfection that she had created and established and had been perceived as, and that was her absolute worst fear. But the thing is, when your worst fear comes true, and you survive it, and you come back from it, and you rise from the ashes, it no longer has a grip on you because it's already happened. So now you no longer fear that thing happening. So to give you a personal example of this, and I gave a talk last year, almost to the day, just shy of, it was about a year and a month ago, for Leanne Mosley for Rich Queen. And you can go watch the rest of that talk on our YouTube channel for the entire Limitless talk. But basically, I told a story about Jake and I. Now, when Jake and I first met and we started dating, we had done quite a bit of very, very deep transformational upheaval and spiritual awakening and healing and just a ton of work on ourselves individually. He had been in the personal development space and in transformation longer than I had, but I mean, I've gone to the depths in my own rearranging of life. And those of you that have followed me for a while or even seen and witnessed my evolution, I have many people that say, like, I see the change in you. Like, I've watched your career. I've watched you transform over the years, and it's just incredible. You are not the same at all, and yet I can see so much more of you. And so we both had taken a deep dive into personal development, into healing, and we had done all of this on our own. And you kind of reach a place, at least for us, at least for me, in your life where you're like, yeah, like I've found peace. Like I've healed a lot of really deep wounding, abandonment wounds, betrayal wounds, all sorts of things. I've done a lot of this work on myself, and like I feel really good. I feel really grounded and centered and connected. I've got my healing go-tos, my grounding go-tos when I'm feeling a little rocked, but like I'm good. I feel great. And then you enter a conscious partnership. And what makes this kind of partnership slightly different is that you enter it in now having an understanding that there are non-negotiables. You're not going to settle, right? But also that you bring this emotional intelligence and a different type of lens to the relationship, which says, I am aware that our relationship is 200%. You have your 100%, and I have my 100%. And that everything that I bring or maybe am triggered by or even inspired by is a direct reflection of something within me. And vice versa. So we've got that at play. And then also I'm going to take it a step further and say that there's really 4 of us in the relationship. There is your inner child, my inner child, your adult self, and my adult self. And sometimes we're not fully grown up, even though we're in adult bodies in a relationship. So what happens there is we are exacerbating wounds. We are, playing at the level of the wound, but we're not really in relationship to the truth of the evolved, mature self yet, because maybe we haven't done that in relationship. And so when you sign up for a conscious partnership, you are really taking a journey together to say, I'm going to continue this work. I'm going to bring what I've done individually into this relationship together collectively. And I'm going to continue doing my work and be committed to growth, but I'm going to do it now in a way that is going to probably bring up some things in the way that I relate now. So we get into relationship, we start dating, and wouldn't you know, there are just a ton of triggers. My deepest fears, his deepest fears, lots of stuff showing up. A lot of this had to do with ways in which were defining love, what we were receiving and interpreting as love. Like, for example, I'm trying to love him and he's perceiving it as me trying to control him, right? You can't, if those are intertwined and coupled in his system, that's like his to unpack. But I can't love him out of that. And then if he was running away or avoiding, I felt rejected or I felt abandoned. And so those things at play are just a couple examples of how this can, in a relationship dynamic, play out. Now, if we didn't have the awareness and the baseline of work that we already had within our own selves individually, I don't think that we would have survived as a couple, because we wouldn't have really been able to hold all of these things at once. This is really challenging work for most people, and it's still really challenging when you have a baseline.
This message sponsored by Po Hung Yu.
Have you ever thought about microdosing before? Maybe you've even seen documentaries like Fantastic Fungi or How to Change Your Mind on Netflix. By the way, I have a funny story about the Fantastic Fungi, but you're going to have to ask me offline. Or maybe you've heard about the extensive research happening in the best universities and the evidence showing how mushrooms are game-changing for those with anxiety, depression, ADHD, and even PTSD. So many female leaders and moms have jumped on the microdosing bandwagon to help them better manage modern-day stress. I want to introduce you to our new brand partner, Po Hung Yu. She's a self-mastery mentor, microdosing guide, and a former acupuncturist. And as a successful woman like me, like you, imagine a life where your brain and your nervous system can just relax. That's exactly what happens when you microdose and you're guided by an experienced facilitator. So you can actually be present and enjoy your life minus the anxiety, overwhelm, and stress. The best part is you don't feel high, there's no psychedelic effect, and no one will know. You can still work, be with your kids, drive, exercise, and live your normal day-to-day life. But you'll still receive all of the amazing benefits of mushrooms, like increasing neuroplasticity, flow, creativity, focus, and even your connection and intimacy with your loved ones. Not only will you receive a 15-minute consult where Po will tell you exactly how this process works so you can decide if it's a fit for you, but you'll also get a bonus of $500 off and a complimentary root cause assessment call worth over $800 when you decide to work with Po. Click the link below in the show notes to get started today. So we get into the relationship, we're 6 months in, and, we start dating through COVID as entrepreneurs and across the country. That was the other thing. So he's in California, I'm in Atlanta. And I can't leave because I have 2 kids from a previous relationship, my previous marriage, and I can't leave. And he knows this in dating me. So we're about 6 months in. We've been jet setting every other weekend on the plane. Either I'm in California once a month or he's out in Georgia once a month, or we meet somewhere else, Mexico, Nashville, wherever, Colorado. We did all sorts of things. And so 6 months in, I'm kind of like, hey, where's this going? Like, are we Are we going to like talk about what's next? And now, mind you, this is coming a little bit from my abandonment wound and some of the anxiety that wants to like move the timeline along and secure safety and stability by way of, moving through timelines and milestones. And of course, this is exacerbating his wound where he feels like I'm trying to control him and trap him. And like rightfully so, all of these things are at play. So we're 6 months in, and he comes out of one of the sessions with his coach and he goes, I can't do this. I don't want this. I don't want to move to Atlanta. I don't want the kids, all these things. And I'm like, what? Like, I knew there was resistance. I knew there was a lot of fear in both of us, but I was blindsided, gut punched, in so much pain. And that was my worst fear come true. But it was so healing. So we did break up, and this was at the end of 2020, December, or like going right into 2021, something like that. But for me, the healing and the opportunity was like, you're not going to chase. You're not going to wait and hope, because in the past I might have done that. And so I told him, hey, I'm going to like really honor some of my own healthy boundaries and things that I'm moving through. And what that looks like is me blocking you, because I'm going to notice if you watch a story, I'm going to notice if you post a story, and I don't want to go there within myself. Like, it wasn't an avoidance thing. It was actually a reclamation of myself. And so that was huge. That was one thing. Another was we did agree to have a closing conversation. I don't think it was right at once. It was around 30 days after we had broken up, which was really talking about like, what did you need more of in the relationship? Kind of like an offboarding call. But it was like an evaluation, like, what did you love? What will you miss? What were some of my best qualities? What were some of the qualities that you think I have room for, growth on? So it was a reflection point. And that was, it was still really raw at that point, but it was also very informative. And so time goes by. I don't chase. I block him. And a couple months has gone by. I've started dating somebody else, and I have fully energetically let go because I had decided I'm not going to chase. Was I hurt? Totally. Was I actively healing? Absolutely. And I was getting very curious as to like, how did this happen? Not how did we get here, but like, what was at play? Because now I know enough, right? So I start journaling, I start writing things down, and I write down the sentence, love is. And I realized love is, and I hear the words in my head. First thing I hear, love is, I need you to need me. And I'm like, where is that coming from? And I realized, oh my God, that's enmeshment from my mother. Where did I learn that? Oh my gosh. So I start to unpack that. And that was such a pivotal point for me in my healing for myself, but also in the way that I relate to relationship as well and love. So anyway, fast forward, a couple months has gone by. I get an email. And I talk all about this in the talk. You can go on YouTube and watch the Limitless talk. But, I get this email out of nowhere, and then shortly after a text that he wants to talk. So fast forward, we end up getting back together. But I no longer have the fear, especially to the level that I had it, going back into the relationship. Was there absolutely a rupture to repair? Yeah, because there was... my worst fear came true. I was actually, left behind and abruptly broken up with. And that was really hard. That was really painful. So yeah, there was that to heal. There was trust to heal, all of those things that come with a sudden breakup and then a reconciliation. You're like, can I trust this? Like, hold on a second. Do I even want this again? And just kind of, going there with all of that. So anyway, I just did not feel that same level of fear because the worst had happened. But it was in the worst fear coming true that I was actually set free from some of my deepest relational wounds. And so I wouldn't change a thing. I don't love that we broke up and it was like this, traumatic thing. And we had all this like runway of healing that needed to happen when we reconciled. But I was so grateful in retrospect that it happened, because it actually sped up the healing. It was such a gift. And so I pray that your worst fear actually comes true, because it will set you free. You're going to stop giving so much energy, so much emotional charge to that thing that you think could go wrong, that might never go wrong, but you're acting as if it could. And so you're protecting yourself, you're avoiding going bigger, you're avoiding going all in, you're avoiding your highest calling and your deepest, biggest self-expression as a result. And this is where we play small and we play to not lose, right? So I hope that your worst fear comes true in this way. Of course, I want everyone to be safe, just preface that, right? But to be set free from the thing that is controlling you and keeping you locked and stuck and unclear and confused in the spot that you're in. I don't care how much success you have. We all have upper limits. And I would say that if you're at higher levels, the stakes are just even higher. Everything is amplified, right? So for my female founders that are at the $2 million mark, the $3 million, like multi-millions, 7-8 figures, you have bigger teams, you have higher, greater stakes. There's more to lose. It feels like a big risk, and it is. But look at Martha's comeback story. Like, it's actually so fucking brilliant. I'm not going to give away her comeback story. Obviously, you know pieces of it, but I didn't know all the details of the full story. Go watch the documentary on Netflix. It's amazing. I have another podcast episode I will record about other lessons and learnings that I took from this documentary because it was just that good. But yeah, I hope your worst fear comes true so that it stops controlling you, that you can actually be set free and know that there are truly no limits to what it is you can do and create in this life. All right, I'll see you on the next episode. Keep it first class.
Thanks for tuning in to Literally First Class. If today's episode inspired you, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps us reach even more incredible women like you who are ready to level up, lead with impact, and make first-class moves. I'll see you in the next episode, but until then, keep dreaming big and taking bold action.